Today's episode of the Norqain Wild One podcast is brought to you by the New York City Wind-Up Watch Fair, Friday, October 21st through Sunday, October 23rd. Stay tuned a bit later in the episode to learn more.
Hello and welcome to the Norqain Wild One podcast. My name is Blake Bettner. We are in Brooklyn Podcasting Studio today with Josh. There's Josh. Hey, Josh.
How's it going?
Good. It's good to see you again, man.
Likewise.
Hat game on point as usual. Again today.
Yeah, got a story behind this one too.
Oh, really? Okay. It's got like the skull and crossbone illustration like all around it.
Yeah, I got this from Clayton Patterson. I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's considered to be almost like a historian of the Lower East Side, but he's famous for his photography and stuff like that, documenting Lower East Side from like the 80s and stuff like that. And I think, if I'm not mistaken, he lived with Keith Haring for a while too.
Okay,
So,
I get that vibe.
Yeah, so this is oddly a collaboration between him and Supreme, and I don't think I would ever really rock a Supreme hat.
But that's a good one.
Yeah, but there's no Supreme labeling anywhere on
there's no box logo on it or anything like that. Exactly. So he's cool. He's cool. I've also got Thomas Clark in studio here with me. Thomas, hey, how you doing? Welcome.
What's up, fellas?
And we have Zach Kazan in Concord on the screen. Zach, welcome back to the U.S.
Thank you. Yeah, it's good to be back in the United States and good to be on the podcast. Yeah.
So for those who aren't aware, you just returned from a trip to Switzerland where you were in Zermatt with Norqain.
I was.
We'll talk a lot about this kind of stuff. You just recently got back, and you've got a great kind of recounting of everything that you saw there and experienced there on the site right now, which we will get into shortly. But first, Thomas, what do you want on your wrist?
Today I have on the Doxa Sub 300, the 50th anniversary, but it is not on its beads of rice bracelet. It's on the U.S.-made Adapt mill strap.
Okay.
In forest green.
In forest green.
Yeah.
All right. Cool.
Yeah.
Very cool. Josh, what do you got on over there?
I'm wearing my Seiko Recraft SNK N01, which is like the colorway that most people have not really seen. I think the one most people know is like the green and gold dial.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, had this one for a while, come full circle from not liking it to loving it. So.
All right. That happens sometimes. We've all been there. So totally normal stuff. Zach Kazan, what are you wearing today?
I'm wearing my Seiko SPD 143 today. I put it on an old suede strap that has like as much patina as any like vintage watch I've ever worn. So it's a really good match. I'm enjoying it today.
Very cool. Glad to hear that you're still enjoying that watch. I don't think I've ever seen that watch on your wrist.
I wore it. I brought it to Switzerland. I wore it.
Oh, did you? Okay.
It was the only watch I brought to Zermatt. But I wear it pretty frequently.
And you won't see it because it's a secret Seiko.
It's the secret Seiko.
Still the somewhat secret Seiko. Yeah.
the famously secret Seiko. That's right. I'm double wristing today.
You are.
Yeah.
I have like equally loud, kind of ridiculous, kind of cool watches on right now. One of them is the Apple Watch Ultra, which I have been testing out actually over the past week. So I still have that on my wrist, and we'll have more kind of a full thoughts on that coming soon. Maybe it's
Blake. Can I ask, have you used the siren? Have you activated the siren yet?
I have not. I've only used it in rather densely populated areas, and I think even if I went into the center of Prospect Park, I bet you'd be able to hear it on the roadside, because Prospect Park's not that huge. So I'm guessing I would. There's nowhere I could try it without bothering somebody, I guess.
I mean, we're in a podcast. You're in a podcast studio right now. Conceivably, that would be a.
Oof. I don't know how loud how exactly loud it is. We might blow out all our ears.
Is it really that loud?
It's like 89 decibels or something like that.
Really?
I have no frame of reference for what that's like, though.
That's, for something that tiny to get that's loud.
Isn't that's like stadium? Not like, I know like the Warriors were playing one year and the crowd was just so loud and they were like showing the decibel level, and I think like it got up to like 1 something there. So
okay.
yeah.
I don't know what we'll find something to do. Thomas or myself, we might get it out into the Bear Mountain or Appalachian area or something like that. We'll find an area to use. But then again, if we're out there and somebody hears it, then they'll be like, "Oh, somebody's in trouble."
Yeah, exactly. I was like, maybe this is the perfect environment.
It's the only feature of the Apple Watch Ultra I actually care about is the siren. I'm fascinated that the watch has a siren, not an alarm.
Yeah,
a siren.
No, the whole thing is kind of.
Is that the strap? That orange strap? Is that the one? That comes with
I think there's lots of interesting things about this watch that I would love to see other watch brands do. But yeah, the straps are definitely one of them. I love the straps that they come on, and this is a great one. This is the Alpine Loop that it's on right now. Siri just activated there for a second. All right, so the case is kind of weird. It's like ugly and ungangly, and it feels like a piece of like camping equipment tech or something like that, and that's kind of like why I like it. This is not an Apple Watch that you're going to like dress down, and like I see a lot of people wear Apple Watches with suits and with whatever, and it doesn't look like too ridiculous because it's kind of small, and when it's like all blacked out, it kind of just fades away. This is not that.
Yeah, it's definitely ultra.
It
looks ultra on your wrist.
It's ultra. Yeah, it's ridiculous. But I've done some various things in it already. I've hiked around, I've biked, I've ran, I've done a few things. So I'll have more of kind of like my full first thoughts on this after like a week of use on the site soon, and then we'll go do something crazy with it somewhere.
Let's go for it.
I don't know. And then on the other wrist, I have one of the new Adapt watches, Type 1?
Series 1.
Series 1, that's what it is. The Series 1, and it's got like a kind of like a bright orange dial and a blue bezel. It's very colorful, right? So I put it on it's a Crown and Buckle Matte Supreme strap that it's like, I don't know, like dual tone, kind of like grays and blues. So definitely the dial of the watch kind of pops off, and that's all you see. It's a really fun watch. These were just released as we record this today. So if you haven't seen those, there's a few kind of crazy colorways. I think 4 in total. It's under $500.
Same company as the watch, as the strap Adapt, or different?
Yeah,
okay.
Which is our brand. Wow. It's not my brand. It's Worn and Wound, Wind Up. It's all like kind of
Still
owned by the same
yeah.
people. So Zach Weiss designed these, and then this is kind of the first watch to launch under that brand. So pretty cool stuff. Go check them out. Very reasonably priced. Very fun watches.
Yep, titanium, right? That's.
I don't know. This looks.
It has the look of it from afar, at least.
Yeah.
I think it is.
Yeah. Oh, go onto the site. Go into Wind Up Watch Shop. I have nothing to do with Wind Up Watch Shop. I literally just got this before we walked over here, and I've been pretty well removed from this project. So, which is by design, for what it's worth.
In fairness, you do have the Apple Watch on the other wrist, so your perception of what weighs what is kind of thrown.
Yeah,
off right
which is titanium. This is titanium as well. So. This feels much lighter on the wrist.
I'm trying to think if I met somebody that had both of those watches on at the same time and they didn't do what you did, I would be like, I would be so curious.
Right.
So what's wrong with you? Kind of a situation. No, I think both fun watches. The Adapt does not have an alarm on it though, so maybe the Type 2 will. We'll get to the alarm function there. So that's what we're wearing on our wrists. Zach Kazan, we recorded without you last week because you were traveling. We did talk a little bit about the Wild One. That's what it's called. The Norqain Wild One. But this was just from what we had seen from the press release, which we had gotten kind of just prior to the actual release of the watch. You listened to that podcast, maybe some of it. What did we get?
I listened to it. I listened to all the podcasts, Blake.
Okay.
Of course I do.
What did set us straight here? What did we get wrong? What did we get right?
So the thing that I won't go into. I mean, you didn't get anything like blatantly wrong, that I can specifically recall. But this watch is all about the material that Norqain created. They partnered with a company called Biwi, which is a Swiss company that makes all kinds of kind of like high end, carbon fibers and plastics and such. So they've made this material called Norteq, which is a carbon fiber composite that's part of a 3-piece case construction. So the carbon fiber element kind of wraps around the outside of the case. Mm-hmm. There's a titanium inner case that protects the movement, and there's like a rubber shell kind of in between the Norteq and the titanium, and it's visible from the outside, like on the case wall area. So it kind of looks like an insert, like a rubber bumper, like we've been talking about, but it's not actually a rubber bumper. It actually is like a full like rubber case, but the Norteq, covers a good chunk of it.
Got it. Okay.
So there are like two like main kind of like driving forces behind like the creation of this material. One was to create, according to Norqain, an extremely robust, lightweight carbon fiber material that's appropriate for, kind of like sporting adventure. That's sort of like Norqain's vibe is, like they're in the mountains and they're biking and they're, doing all these things that, you probably, want to do with like an Apple Watch Ultra, for example,
Sure.
So the watch needed to be like very lightweight, sporting, robust, and so forth. But they also wanted to make a carbon fiber material that they could add color to. And that was kind of like the big challenge, behind this project. And what my understanding is took a lot of the, there's a lot of trial and error involved in that. Mm-hmm. So they've got a carbon fiber composite material in this Norteq material that can be colored without reducing any of the material's inherent kind of like robust qualities, which is what would happen normally if you just dyed like straight carbon fiber. You would like lose some of that some of that robustness and rigidity that you get with a carbon material.
Okay, so you were impressed with the material that they were able to devise for this watch, and then I'm sure you saw like PowerPoints on all the processes and how it's made and all that kind of stuff while you were over there.
Yeah, they had a whole presentation on how the watch is made and the kind of like some of the more technical stuff behind the material. I'm not a carbon fiber expert. I'm not a materials scientist. So like, I didn't really focus too much on, like the science, behind it. I was just really interested in like how the watch felt and, like what this kind of means for Norqain as a brand. And I was pretty impressed with the feel of the watch on my wrist. Like it's uncannily lightweight. Like it feels really great. Mm-hmm. And everything about it is very well balanced. The strap fitment to the case is like perfect. They clearly spent a lot of time getting that just right. And it really feels like Jean-Claude Biver, who his name we haven't mentioned yet, but he's a new advisor to the Norqain board, who had a large hand in this project, and his influence is really felt in this watch, just because it's really ultra contemporary in its design, and like to me that's sort of what I associate Jean-Claude Biver's watch endeavors with, is this sort of like materials focused, very contemporary design language.
Certainly. I think one thing that caught my attention in your write-up, to come from both Ben and Jean-Claude, was their kind of agreement in, we don't want to keep resurrecting the past and moving ahead, and that's not how we're going to get to where we want to be in kind of the watch industry and what we want to make, and kind of deriding that whole kind of trend that had taken hold, or the watch industry, for the past 6, 7, 8, 9 years or so, of kind of bringing back old designs and making new watches look like the old ones, and he's having none of that, basically.
Yeah.
Like no, not on my watch. We are doing like we're full steam ahead. We'll learn from mistakes. So, might not always work, but that is how progress is made, and this kind of feels like another step along that direction.
Yeah, I feel like also in your article you had mentioned, case in point, like the screws, right? The screws that they use to kind of fall in line with the case body, as opposed to the screws that just went in vertically. And Biver was saying that like, no, like we can't do it that way. Like there's no shortcuts there, and we have to do it this way, so where it like falls in line with the case body.
Yeah, he seemed to have a very interesting point of view on how this watch was built, and as you start to kind of paint a clearer picture as to the ethos of this watch, why it might cost as much as it does, and how we should be thinking about it in the broader context of Norqain. As a young watch brand. Josh, you were just looking at some pictures of it. What do you think of this thing?
Yeah, it's really interesting to me because, I mean, the one thing I'm thinking about while I'm looking at it, I was like, who is this watch particularly for? And I'm thinking of like other watches in this price category. And it really, but like, this kind of thing puts a smile on my face because it's really a unique thing of its own. Like, as far as I can't really think of a watch that's like as overbuilt as this, but also like, because like when I think about it, like, I don't know that much about materials, but like carbon, like the fact that this watch has like, carbon fiber and seeing like the breakout of like all the things that are going into protecting the movement and stuff like that. I think of like other quote unquote like adventure watches, like, it's really, really kind of like, it's really, really crazy how much they put into this, because as I was like reading about it as you guys were talking about it. But when you also look at that, but like the stylistically though, like if you look at the handset, like it doesn't remind me of like a sporty like a sporty like adventure watch. Like like the handset and the hour markers kind of remind me of something that looks a little bit more almost like, I wouldn't say like a dress watch, but something that not as quite as outdoorsy as like the rest of the watch kind of gives off style wise. At least to me, that's how it comes across. So it's kind of like to me, it's almost like kind of like a blend of like, it's very modern, but like when I say modern, it's almost more like I'm not necessarily thinking in terms of like modern, adventure or outdoor watches, kind of more like, I guess you could say sport watches, but also dress watches in terms of the dial and stuff like that. But
yeah. It picks up a lot of the kind of typical Norqain design languages that I think we've gotten used to. And I think that was maybe the bigger surprise to me. There's a lot that I find familiar in this watch, in so much as it is entirely something new and novel for them and a new shape case. I would still place it as an Norqain, even if it didn't say Norqain on the dial, which I guess is a successful execution then of an entirely new watch. And what they have built, the design language that they have established, is translated over successfully. Whether you like that or not is not the point. That they've done it. So, but there's another element of this watch. This is kind of interesting. Which is the laser etched dial component, and then this is one of your, I guess, not a part that you enjoyed as much as the rest of the watch.
Yeah, so I kind of I understand what Josh is saying about the dial. It kind of feels like it belongs on a different watch almost. It's very well done. Like, it's very intricate, and to see it in person, and hopefully it's captured in the photos on the website. It's like it's dynamic. Like, it has like a lot of there's a lot to look at there. It's multi-layered, laser cut. Basically, it's an inversion of Norqain's logo, like repeated at angles. It looks like a mandala pattern. It's just kind of like not really to my taste. I feel like a watch like this, a sports watch, maybe should have like a more sober, like cleaner dial, just a little bit busy. For me. There's a version of this watch, the limited edition, made with one of Norqain's brand ambassadors, who's a conservationist who works with all sorts of animals. But the watch dial is made to look like a lion's mane instead of having this like Norqain logo pattern. And that dial I thought was more successful and looked a little bit better. Not that it like necessarily like fits the spirit of like a sports watch better, just like visually to me, I find it a little bit more appealing. It'll be interesting to see how they expand the line, going forward. I'm sure, we can expect them to add complications at some point and have, hopefully different dial variants and color cases and all sorts of things. So I'll be curious to see what next year's version of the Wild One looks like and in the years following.
Yeah. I was thinking they have a watch. It's kind of like a field watch that has I think it's a full loom dial. Yeah. That had a rather interesting design of the dial. I felt like something like that maybe would have worked well here in this watch. That's like kind of the Norqain that that I fancy. Is that one field watch? I'm very curious to see this watch in person though. So hopefully we get some into the office soon. And I'm curious to see what they do. Like they put the R&D work in to create this material, and part of that was like adding the element of being able to color it a certain way. So I imagine that we'll see that kind of taken to, in many different forms here.
I was going to say, so the watch retails at about $5,000. I believe the limited edition is
little over $5,000.
Yeah, the limited edition is like $5,700. And again,
like that,
and then just going back to your write-up, Zach, you had mentioned that those might have strong opinions about the watch just because they'll compare it to other watches on the market that might feel the same way in hand or are made of like that composite or bioceramic material, and
other Norqains too that cost half as much,
right? And then to quote you said that would be disingenuous. So I guess for someone like, well, all of us have yet to have the watch in person, but like for those like Josh, who's like kind of a step away from the watch space, like how would you kind of explain like why it would be disingenuous to compare it to those watches?
I think that like if you've held a so kind of to step back a bit.
This episode is brought to you by the New York City Wind-Up Watch Fair. Wind-Up Watch Fair is a 3-day-long shopping experience that brings watch brands and customers together in a fun, approachable, and engaging environment. Always free and open to the public, Wind-Up Watch Fair encourages everyone from seasoned collectors to first-time watch buyers to come in, take a look, shop, and talk watches. This year, more than 60 brands will be participating, including Oris, Christopher Ward, G-Shock, Young Hands, Zodiac, and more. Don't miss the chance to discover hundreds of incredible watches during the New York City Wind-Up Watch Fair at the Altman Building, 135 West 18th Street, from Friday, October 21st through Sunday, October 23rd. To learn more, visit www.windupwatchfair.com.
Like when I was in Switzerland, I was kind of like monitoring the like reactions to the watch, like in real time from people on, comments on Instagram and so forth. And this happens whenever an alternative material watch is introduced. It always gets dismissed as like,
plastic,
quote unquote. Yeah. And carbon fiber, I guess is like, technically in that like plastic family, but the way this material is engineered feels very, very different. Like, when you have it on your wrist, when you have it in your hand, it's very clearly a different material than like a moon swatch, I've had enough experience, like, I've held the moon swatch in my hand, enough, times to now like have a sense of like what that material feels like. It feels like a $300 watch. Like this material feels like something considerably more premium than that. Yeah. And it's just sort of like an impression you get when you have the watch on your wrist, and when you hold it in your hand, you can tell that the attention was paid to the fitment and to the finishing, and it all just kind of comes together. And the response really kind of reminded me of how people reacted to the Black Bay Pro when that was introduced, and we got a very early look at that when we were in Switzerland for Watches and Wonders, and none of us had like an issue with the case thickness. And I think it's kind of the same sort of thing here. Everyone who handled that watch, I think in Zermatt, last week, was pretty impressed with what Norqain had come up with. And so, I just find the backseat quarterbacking kind of, interesting. And I think people, once they actually get their hands on the watch, they'll be impressed with it. Maybe they won't, agree that it's worth, $5,000, or they won't, want to go out and buy one. But it's certainly not something that is like, dismissible as, like a cheap plastic, in my opinion.
Sure. And this is coming from, you own a watch that has it's a proprietary developed material that I think is also kind of rather interesting, that kind of stands on its own, that, is a premium, right, to get, and it's quite tricky for that brand to develop. I imagine it's a similar situation here. I think it's easy to kind of hear certain words that you might see everywhere, like ceramic and titanium and carbon fiber, and have kind of an instinct to hand wave, like, oh, you can get watches all up and down the price range, and I think it goes into there's more nuance to it and how some of these are put together. Sure. Whether that means anything to you or not, I guess is another story. Certainly it doesn't have to. But I think it's interesting the brands are pushing forward in these ways and kind of putting these new things together. And, maybe eventually it becomes easy enough to manufacture and cheap enough that, the prices go one way, or it becomes more accessible for other micro brands and new brands to license that technology, or whatever it ends up being, to kind of become out there, or even just how we understand these materials in the first place, to make them better for watches. So, so I think it's really interesting to pay attention to, and I certainly applaud Norqain for taking this kind of a step. So in your mind, like, you had no problem with the price? Like, it felt like a $5,000 watch.
Yeah, well, so like in the in the article that I wrote up, which will be on the site by the time this podcast airs, I compared it to my my ceramic Zenith Defy that I no longer own, but like ceramic obviously is a different material than the carbon fiber here, but like I spent a certain amount of money for that for the ceramic watch, and I think that like this carbon fiber material feels like comparable in quality to that. To that ceramic material. Like I would have, like, I think the price is fair. And if people like the watch, if they, try the watch on and like the way it feels, I don't think they would, have a problem paying that price if it clicks with them. Yeah.
Fair enough. What was Jean-Claude Biver like in person?
Well, he was great. Super friendly guy. If you've seen video of him, which we probably all have, we can link to some from like the Hodinkee events of the past and whatnot. But like, he's kind of like a human cartoon. Like, he's just very animated, and he's just like really, really passionate and just like obsessed with watches. Like, he really. He really clearly loves this stuff and is enthusiastic about it. So he was great to talk to. I really appreciate having the opportunity to, to spend some time with him, like in a, kind of like a one-on-one setting. I talked with him and Ben Kufer, the CEO of Norqain, together. And, usually at these press events, you don't have that sort of like one-on-one time. Usually it's like a group interview type situation when you have some FaceTime with a with a CEO or someone like Jean-Claude. So to get some time privately with them was great. And he was he was like super friendly, and it was a wonderful experience to chat with him for sure.
Oh, cool. Was there anything that he said that surprised you or kind of took you off guard?
Well, I talked about it a little bit in the article I wrote, but I wanted to know if there was anything about Norqain that he saw as kind of like, similar to other brands that he's worked with, in the past, just because he's been around for so long and he's worked with so many brands and has so much experience. I was curious, like, what drew him to Norqain, if there was like some like, element of Norqain that like, appealed to him because of a past experience. And he drew a parallel with Blancpain, where he, where he worked as an executive, years ago. And the parallel was not with like the watches themselves, obviously, quite different, in terms of the style of those watches. But he compared the energy at Norqain to like a startup kind of environment, which he thought was, kind of similar to what he experienced at Blancpain years ago, like, an excitement and an enthusiasm for the brand and sort of this like youthful energy. So I thought that was really interesting. I was very surprised that he drew the comparison with Blancpain there, because I mean, especially with the Wild One, I think the clear comparison is Hublot, because of the the focus on materials and kind of just like the right turn that the brand seems to be taking. It's a very different kind of experience.
Well, I think if you take what he said and you kind of remove the what and you step back into the why he's doing this stuff, then I think maybe that ethos is carries over and makes sense. Not
Yeah, for
literally
sure.
from watch to watch or style to style, but like just what he's trying to do. Period. In the industry and with some of these watches. So, if there was a Mount Rushmore of individuals from the watch industry, he would surely be one of the faces on there, right?
I think so. Yeah, he's pretty. I mean, it's hard to think of a more influential, kind of like powerful figure in watchmaking over the last, several decades than Jean-Claude Biver. He's really kind of like he's been involved in with so many brands and like so many watches kind of have his stamp on them and yeah, definitely Mount Rushmore material for sure.
Who would the other three faces be? Let us know in the comments, and maybe that's a topic we can tackle another day. So, well, that's cool. The trip sounded amazing. The locale looked absolutely stunning. Going through some of the pictures, I was very jealous, I gotta say. And you didn't fall off the side of a mountain, so that's a win.
I did not fall off the side of a mountain. I was very safe the entire time.
Okay.
The watch could probably handle falling off the side of the Matterhorn, but I could not.
Yeah.
So it was a pretty cool trip. Zermatt's a beautiful place, and Switzerland's a beautiful country. So it was very nice.
And just to be clear, you didn't climb up the Matterhorn, right?
No, I did not. I was on very, very much no.
Right.
Yeah.
You need an Apple Watch Ultra for that.
Right.
Kind of an endeavor.
Yeah, and I totally envisioned Zach with like, his bag of chalk,
His harness on, his carabiner.
Right.
I would literally die. I would be dead. Yeah.
Well, I guess I'm dead now. No, this watch can stand up to 5,000 G
Yeah.
force.
Yeah, which is
right?
like that's a meaningless. Like a human being can't.
Far
survive
more than
75.
a body can withstand.
It's just like it's insane. So it's one of those like statistics that's just a pure, flex on the part of the the brand. Like it's not like that doesn't have like a meaningful real world meaning. 5,000 G's, like what is that?
I don't know. What about Tom Cruise ejecting at Mach 10?
Right. Just roughly what we talked about the last podcast.
Yeah. Well, I think his body would have just been completely shredded from the
Yeah.
Right.
Body's liquefied,
But the watch,
the watch is still there.
watch
Right.
would be like, whoa, it survived.
Well, you're definitely getting your money's worth there with the Norqain. So it's like 1 G per dollar.
1
there.
G, but that's a good way to think about it.
Yeah.
Zach Weiss said he had not seen the new Top Gun movie.
I'm there with him. I still haven't seen it.
Yeah,
yet.
that's
Dude, come on, you
I
gotta
know.
get on this.
You
Yeah.
might be the last person on the planet to not see it.
You
It's,
know.
I know.
You and Weiss.
I know. It's
Yeah.
terrible.
No, that's cool. And thank you for recounting that for us, Zach. And we'll have more on the watch in due time. I hope. Would like to see this watch.
Yeah, definitely. And if not soon, then maybe at for sure Wind Up, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Wind Up New York is coming up in, I don't know, maybe a few weeks from when this goes live. Josh, you gonna swing out?
I really can't wait. I put it on my calendar.
Hey.
Awesome.
I will be there maybe multiple days. That's how excited.
All right, you
I
should.
am.
We've got
Nice.
there's a lounge downstairs with like a bar and stuff. It's in the Altman building, so it's multiple levels. Some people that I talked to over the past week were still under the impression that it was in Chelsea Market. It is not. It is in the Altman building. We have more details on this on warnerwild.com that we can link to down below. If you are in the New York area, definitely come out and say hi. We'd love to see you.
I wonder what kind of event is happening at Chelsea Market during the time Wind Up is happening, because I'm sure there will be a handful of people that go to Chelsea Market
I
and they
guarantee
experience like
Yeah.
some other pop-up event.
They'll in passing see like on their social or whatever, oh, Wind Up is next weekend, and then they'll just stop right there, and then they'll just like go over to Chelsea Market, which is fine. It's not that far away. I
don't think so.
As I understand it, so maybe like 18th and 7th or something.
So
I don't know.
it's still the same neighborhood. Pretty
Yeah,
much.
yeah, it's not that far away. So if you do that, don't worry, we're not far. Well, maybe we should go and put a sign on the
Right.
the dip you're looking for the Wind Up Watch Fair. We've moved. No, we've got a lot of cool brands that will be there that I'm excited to see more of. Furlan Mari, I think, is going to be there. as well. So, and a bunch of other really great brands. That one just popped into mind.
Yeah. Is the Collective going to be there as well? I know they were in Chicago.
Yep, the Collective will be there.
Yeah.
Gabe and Asher, I believe, will be there.
Yeah.
So we'll have more of their watches. And they are retailing now Fears watches. So
That's right.
Nicholas of Fears will be, Nicholas Bowman Cargill, I think is his name, will be at the fair as well, selling Fears watches through Collective. So he is a genuinely amazing, beautiful, nice person. If you haven't met him and you like Fears watches, definitely swing by, even if it's just to talk to him, because he's amazing. So just one of the brands that I'm looking forward to seeing more of there. I like what Fears is doing. I hope they have one of those Garrick watches there.
Yeah,
I'm curious to see that one in the flesh. It's got this crazy collaboration, Garrick with another UK based brand. We are almost up on time, but there's one other thing I wanted to talk about just quickly, because you and I were talking about it on the walk up here. A couple of friends that we had kind of gotten into watches in passing, and kind of looking how we got them into it, and then kind of right now where they are and how far they've come, just because of I think I might need a watch for this or that. I know you're into watches, weirdo. Can you help me out? So you help them out with a watch, and now it's like a slippery slope, and now they are like kind of watch people, and they're like buying different straps and more watches and, and stuff like that. So I commented on a friend of mine, his name is Travis, shout out Travis. He had gotten an Explorer and then wanted something that would be more appropriate to wear like every day and kind of beat around. So he got that Seiko Solar Diver, which is an awesome watch, which I recommended to him. You have one as well. You also have that Explorer. So,
he's got good taste.
He's got good taste. Exactly. Zach, have you gotten any of your friends, non-watch friends, into watches, and like has it stuck in any way, shape, or form?
I don't know that I've gotten anyone into watches as a hobby. I've definitely been asked by like non-watch people about my opinion on like, either a specific watch or like more like general recommendations. And I have to say, like, I am always like thrilled when someone asks me my opinion on that, because like it's the one time where like I really get to like be of use to someone.
So do you say like sit down, let's wrap, kind of a situation?
Basically, I'm like, let's go get a beer, let's go get a coffee, because this is going to be like more than you can handle in like an Instagram DM or something. So I don't know that I've ever like gotten somebody into like I said, into watches as a hobby, like converted someone fully into like our weird thing, but like I've turned people on to like to Seikos. I have a friend who bought an Oris on my recommendation, which I'm proud of. I guess I think like that's kind of like an insidery sort of watch that like like the general public still like might not be like was like obsessed with as like watch enthusiasts are. So I always enjoy kind of giving that sort of advice and being a go-to person for my like social circle when it comes to watch talk, I guess.
And Josh, you're an example of a person who's kind of already into watches a little bit, and then we started recording in your studio.
All I needed was the push,
which didn't help your situation.
I was already like, I've just been waiting for somebody for a long time to just push me, because it's one of those things I'm like, I've always wanted to dive more into it. And I was a connoisseur of all Casios under $30 for my entire life, and I had a lot of them. I've owned all of them.
Love it.
But even for me, like I have, I've tried, I wouldn't say I've gotten anybody into watches per se, but I would say I've tried many times. Because anytime somebody, like I hear somebody like talking about a watch or my watch or anything or just watches, I'm just like, oh, what are you talking about? Like I immediately, let's talk, let's chat.
We talked about this on our way over, but kind of like witnessing their first impressions, or they're seeing their genuine like reactions. Shout out Kyle, Kyle Snar. He held my Doxa it was his first time handling a Doxa, right? So and just seeing his reaction of like just handling a Doxa for the first time was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then you had mentioned just getting people to watch us, like my brother, who shout out Gabe. He's had a SKX 013 forever.
Nice. Okay.
And then he's going to get married at the end of this year, and he ended up deciding on a I was trying to push him towards a Grand Seiko. I was trying to push his fiance into forcing
That's a good wedding one.
Right. But he's just still working his way up, and he ended up deciding on the one of the Seiko Solars, but it was the chronograph, the panda looking one.
Yeah. We will link to we've got a review of that on the site right now. I like that watch quite a bit.
Yeah, and then I saw him the other day, and then he's got the Seiko Solar Diver. He's been talking about he's been asking me about green dial watches, and then he has the green dial, green bezel Seiko Solar Diver, and those things are just so cool, man. They just wear so well. Forget about like the solar and movement, or the quartz movement and whatnot. Like, they're just cool. They wear so well on wrist. Yeah.
Just look at us, our weird thing. We're like a disciple from the New Testament.
Right. And then
have you heard?
Yeah. And then so Zach, and also like it's always like it's always too much. I always give too much information. I have like high school buddies that are like, oh, like it just seems like you're in the watch industry now. Like I have this Seiko Turtle, and I'm just like, by the way, good choice. He's like, I've been wearing this Seiko Turtle forever. I just want to switch up the straps. I'm like, all right, like I got the recommendations for it. I'm just blowing up his DMs, But I hope I didn't scare him off. I gotta check in on that. So
now there's something fun about that, and you want to preserve like their own. You don't want to inform their tastes are like, well, this is what real watch enthusiasts get, so you should get like these things. Like you want to let them still form their like, what do you and like encourage their. And I think you've done a great job of that. Like you still very much like have your lane carved out, which is like maybe deepened a little bit since Ocelot started.
It's changing a lot. It's changed a lot. Funny enough to say, like it all started with me reading that Seiko 5 article that Zach Weiss wrote or whatever, and that was like the first one that I ended up getting, like the SMK 803, one of those
ages
models.
ago,
809, so like that was my first automatic watch, and then this one that I'm wearing was my second. But I've experienced the same thing that Thomas has, where I think I've scared off one of my best friends who he was trying to get his uncle like his first automatic watch or something like that. And this was only like maybe 6 or 7 months ago. And he's like, yeah, I'm in between like a Shinola and a Hamilton. And I was just like, and then I saw the Shinola and then I saw the Hamilton. I was like, no, go for the Hamilton. I was just like,
that's an acceptable instance where you kind of give a nudge.
I was like, no disrespect, but I was like the Hamilton. It was a khaki field. I was like, go for it.
Khaki field. Ultimate classic.
I was like, trust me, he'll like that.
There's always a step too far you can take it, I suppose, where they start to look at you like, huh?
Yeah.
Like,
but
I swear this guy rose from the dead.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy, chill. There's a point where there's a scare off point. And maybe for us it'd be like the prices of some of the watches, the materials, and carbons.
It's talking about vintage watches, I think.
Yes. I was listening to Spike's car radio the other day in Jerry Seinfeld. They were talking about his Kith photo shoot. But anyways, Spike had on,
which was amazing, by the way.
Which was cool, right? You should listen to that episode. It's pretty interesting. But Spike had on an old sub, and he was talking to him about the Kissing 40 on the bezel, which is kind of like a super weird, nerdy, like, what's that weird? I mean, it's a very normal thing. Those bezels were pad printed, and then as the pads wore out, they would get wider and wider. So some of the numerals would get closer, and there's the fat font bezels. Right, so there's all kinds of like weird details about these bezels that vintage people kind of look for and look at, and some are worth more than others. And to hear him go on about this one detail, and Jerry Seinfeld kind of like deride the whole like, I don't know, which is a normal reaction, to that. We were talking about what like Paul Newman would think of all the hubbub around his watch, and I imagine it'd be something similar.
He would think it's so
just
stupid.
Kind of like, this is ridiculous.
Yeah, exactly. He would hate it so much.
Yeah, exactly. So I think it's healthy to take a step back and look at it from a
because
this is a little sad.
That Rolex world of intricate details of vintage Rolex. I'm like, I've watched a few videos on it. And I'm just like, this is insane.
And some details can have like tens of thousands of dollars of differences on the prices for like some small details. And there's nothing different about the watch. It's just, this one little piece of aluminum or this one red line of text. It's all kinds of weird. But who are we to judge? Let us know if you've gotten any of your friends into watches and how that's gone, and if they've gone deeper into it, or if they've kind of slowly backed away from it once they got a closer look behind the curtain. We're curious to know. In the meantime, don't forget about Wind Up coming up soon. We'll have more details on that below. Go check out Zach's review introduction, hands-on, of the Norqain Wild One, as well as more of his details about the trip and conversation with Jean-Claude Biver and Ben Kiefer. Thank you for tuning in, and until next time, take care.